Alright. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're going to get started in just a minute. All right, welcome, folks. If folks want to start putting your saying hello in the chat, where you're from, we'd love to know more about our audience. Welcome, welcome. Okay, we've seen lots of friends in the chat. All right, well, let me get started. And we'll kick off. So I am calling in from the DC area, and I am the Senior Director of Research for the Joan Ganz Cooney Center. My name is Medha Dare, and we are very excited to welcome you all to our third Wellbeing by Design Fellowship webinar to share the wonderful projects that our fellows have been working on this year. And if you don't know, the Cooney Center is a research and innovation nonprofit within Sesame Workshop, which is the nonprofit that creates Sesame Street. We are very excited to work with many people in the kids media and technology industry, including our fellows who are here today, on helping them to make kids stronger, smarter, and kinder through their digital design. And we are very excited to share our fellows today. We are also very thankful for our funders of this program, Pinterest and Foundry 10. Thank you so much to our funders. I am going to pass it to Allison in just a moment, but in terms of housekeeping, please use the Q&A function in the webinar format, or feel free to also put questions in the chat. Our fellows are able to say hello and share resources there. We will be sharing the deck at the end of the event and a recording to everybody who signed up. So welcome, enjoy, and I hope you're inspired to design for well-being. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Allison. It is so great to see so many friends here from all over the world. Thank you for tuning in and making the time to be with us. We are so thrilled to celebrate this year our third cohort of Wellbeing by Design Fellows. And we've always had many more applicants apply than we can accept into this program for designers and producers of interactive media for kids. And I am so excited to introduce you to the amazing individuals we have had the pleasure of learning alongside with and being inspired by. The teacher in me is a big believer in showing, not telling, and my very talented colleagues, Catherine and Hannah and Ashley, have done an incredible job of putting together this short video, capturing a little bit of the magic of getting this particular group of fellows together. So Leslie, if you could please hit play.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah. Another bit of magic from this program is when the fellows have a chance to work with the youth design team, made possible with support from Foundry 10. This group of 10 teenagers from across the country were recruited and trained by our partners in tandem and guided by our amazing youth design consultant, Colin Angevine. They provided their sometimes very honest perspectives on the fellows' products and projects during co-designs and discussion sessions that you will hear more about shortly. A personal highlight for me this year happened when we asked all of the youth design team members to share one piece of advice they had for their fellows for the fellows in the program. One of the young people raised her hands and she said, I know what you're doing is really hard, but don't give up. We need people making technology that is good for us. You got this. So, to everyone on the webinar today, if you agree with this statement, can you please send some love and encouragement to the fellows in the chat and in reactions so we can give them lots of, make sure that they feel like they got this. Now I'm pleased to turn it over to Ali Dewey, who will kick off the fellow case study presentations today. Ali, over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Allie Dewey and I'm the exhibit designer at the Museum, a children's museum in San Antonio, Texas. Our most popular exhibit, Littletown, is getting refreshed. It's our take on the classic pretend city you see in children's museums. But really, it's about giving kids a space to explore the world around them through play. The idea is simple. Try it, play it, be it. Kids step into different roles, test out real-world scenarios, and build social and emotional skills along the way, with caregivers right there supporting them. During this fellowship, I focused on developing 4 media interactives that could live in this space. First, a river and fishing projection. Kids step into an animated river environment that responds to their movements. There's aquatic life swimming around them, a fishing component, and at times it may even shift to a floor is lava to encourage group play. Second, a dance interactive in a gym-like space. Think something similar to Just Dance. Kids follow along, learn new moves, and make up their own. It's about movement, expression, and building gross motor skills. Third, a painting and construction experience. Built into the wood structure with backlit screens, kids can use tools like rollers, brushes, and stamps to explore color, shape, and texture through hands-on digital painting. And fourth, a design your own car activity. Kids customize a vehicle on a tablet, then see it appear on a physical car model in real time. There's also physical pieces that they can adjust and manipulate, so it really blends digital and physical play. As I developed these, I used the RITEC framework to guide decisions, with a focus on autonomy, relationships, and creativity. For this group, ages 3 to 5, those previous mentioned categories are deeply connected and really a foundation and part of the form the foundation of competency. It's about learning a skill. It's about making choices, expressing ideas, connecting with others, and beginning to understand who they are. Safety, inclusion, and accessibility were baked in throughout, and identity became an overarching theme, because at its core, this space is about kids exploring who they can be. One thing I heard constantly from the youth was that they wanted more physical and phygital experiences, especially in a world that's increasingly screen heavy. These conversations confirmed 3 points that should be considered when designing for well-being. First, it's about rebalancing play. Instead of competing with digital media, we should use it to enhance physical experiences. When done well, that combination encourages movement, collaboration, and deeper engagement. Second, designing for shared family experiences. Kids and caregivers don't want to be doing separate things. They want to engage together. For example, the River Interactive, a child might be catching a fish while a caregiver helps guide or react alongside them, and maybe even help identify a fish type. It becomes a shared moment, not a solo activity. And third, expectations around interactivity are changing. Kids today expect things to respond to them, to feel intuitive and personal. But they also want to experiences that feel real and feel grounded. So for us designers, the challenge is to move beyond using text tech just because it's exciting, and instead use it in ways that actually deepen the experience. At the end of the day, the goal is to create something that feels cohesive, human-centered, and meaningful, where technology supports play rather than distracting from it. I'm excited to hand it off to the next fellow, Amber.
Thank you so much, Allie. Hello, everyone. My name is Amber Ivy, and I'm the creator of AI Digitales. And I want to talk to you about our product, AI DigiCards. AI DigiCards is where AI literacy begins at the kitchen table, not on a tablet. But before I get into the product, I want to explain how I got here. I know you made me thinking her initials are AI, so she must have planned this. Not really. My parents may have figured something out, but my journey started somewhere else. But in 2022, when most of us were shocked by this little thing called ChatGPT, I realized the world that my nieces and nephews were growing up in, where AI assistants were normal and a part of their daily lives, was something that they were going to have to encounter. So I started and I wrote a book called AI Meets AI to help kids understand this wild and confusing thing called artificial intelligence. From there, AI Digitals grew into beyond a book to a newsletter, the AI for Kids podcast, and now AI Digicards. So AI DigiCards is what I want to talk to you all about today. We built it screen-free first because kids should be able to learn about AI, especially at a younger age, without needing more screen time or without being plugged in front of a computer. I've heard from parents the concern about screen time addictions and a concern about AI and just having kids be addicted to these different tools. So we wanted to build something that started offline first, and then at the same time, we always planned for digital add-ons when families were ready or when someone's access increased. We also understand that there are a lot of communities don't have access to things like broadband. So how do we make sure all kids who are growing up in this space are AI literate and know what's happening with the tool? So that's really why the Wellbeing by Design work was so important to us. This fellowship found it one day, and I was so excited because I didn't know something like this existed, and it's just been great working with the folks here. And it really helped us think carefully about how to build a product that not only support kids on even the physical side, but how do we then support kids, family, and learning without rushing straight to a screen. But then when I was ready to take kids to digital, making sure I had the toolkit that I needed to do that. Over these last few months, it has dramatically changed how I think about the AI for Kids work, how we focus on ensuring that the engagement that we have with the kids challenges them, but also make sure they maintain the things like creativity, critical thinking, all the things that we're concerned that AI will take away from them. It's really helped us think carefully about how to build this product in a way that meets families where they are. We focus on kids ages 5 to 9 and teach them everything from algorithms to neural networks in 5 different modalities: definitions, stories, activities, games, audio, in a way that meets kids where they are with their different learning or literacy styles. And from that point, what I found most interesting was that when we met with the young adults who were helping to critique our work, a lot of them were talking about keeping things physical. Like I came to them like, can we make all of these cards digital? And they were like, no, chill out. You don't need everything to be digital. They wanted us to keep most of it physical because they really value teaching kids in a way that allowed them to touch and feel. And they suggested to us that we make the actual activities go digital, but everything else stay physical and in the real world. So I'm very appreciative of the work that has happened here. And I'm just thankful for all that we've learned over the course of this fellowship. And for those who are interested in it, make sure you sign up because this has just been, it's changed this product. You heard some of the feedback from the young adults earlier. It has changed the way we think. It has changed the way we're going to show up in the world. And I believe all of the products you're going to hear today are going to touch lives in ways we are better for because we're part of this fellowship. Thank you, folks. And I'm passing it over to Asante.
All right. Thank you, Amber. Good morning, everyone. My name is Asante Asiedu. I'm the founder of UDISA. My team and I entered into this program while designing a tool that uses lightweight XR experiences and interactive media to increase access to skill building resources. And when I say skill building, an example, we've partnered with the Reginald F. Lewis Museum to create like gamified digital twins of historical installations, worked with like 4-H and the University of Nebraska to support applied mathematics with activities that have students looking to identify surface area as they construct buildings. So really training and upskilling as like a focus of our products. Our goal has really been to support facilitators by creating interactive experiences from their curriculum that can be accessed on mobile, desktop, and VR devices. And so, youth being the most affected by these emerging technologies made us ask the question, how can we better support educators and industry partners who are already using or want to use these technologies so that they can better support youth well-being? And there's no better way to find out than to hear directly from the youth. And our co-design sessions really lended to that in an amazing way. We were able to hear what the students need from those who teach them directly from them. And so what we did was we gave the students access to our XR editor tool and a few of the skill building activities that we designed with it. And what we learned is that students really value those real world environments, guided questions, having room for choice as they're navigating different environments. The technology really, and I think Amber mentioned this also, should support teachers, not replace them. They don't want just the technology tools on their own. They really want to know what the teachers know and then see how the technology can kind of support that learning as they move forward. Lightweight XR experiences makes reflection, exploration, and learning a lot more engaging, for the students and empowering for educators as well. And that matters primarily from an accessibility standpoint. The youth let us know also that, ages 5 through 10 were probably the best for the product as we were sharing it. Younger students are being exposed to these technologies every day. And so where we originally thought that high school might be, our kind of pathway in, these students let us know that even younger students would be willing and benefiting from the use of technology in this way. And so the fellowship really allowed us to kind of refine our editor tool and kind of incorporate a new framework for youth-centered design using these XR user interfaces. And it allowed us to remaster our storybook as another example of what applied storytelling and skill building could look like in practice with XR technologies. So for us, we plan to really continue to support our institutional partners with XR infrastructure design and like implementation. And if you are someone who's looking for partnerships in interactive media design or interested in how your institution might be able to utilize XR, please, feel free to contact us, either via the email there or after this session, and would love to connect and, learn more about the work that you're doing. And with that, I will pass it on over to Chris.
All right. Thanks, Asante. I really appreciate it. So to start, my name is Chris Gomez, and I'm the Associate Curator of the Bronx Children's Museum. At the moment, our current project is the Bronx Story Machine, and we're building it out to provide kids the opportunity to tell their own stories. Literacy and reading is really important to us here at the museum. A number of our directors are writers themselves, authors, illustrators. I myself am an illustrator cartoonist, and I use all these skills, and we use all these skills to try to improve literacy in the Bronx as one of our main missions. At the moment, 70% of children in the third grade in the Bronx aren't reading at grade level, and 56% of students going to college are kind of not meeting those reading standards. So we want to try to get there early and help them out as much as we can. And to that end, we've created the Bronx Story Machine to create an opportunity for kids to tell their own stories. At the beginning, it was kind of going to be a series of prompts and a framework for kids to answer questions about themselves, explore new ideas, and create narratives with their parents to share. However, once I got into this fellowship and seeing everyone else's projects and how in-depth and interesting everyone's kind of approaching their missions, it was pretty daunting, honestly. That along with the RITEC framework, and for those who don't know much about the RITEC framework, I would heavily suggest learning about it because it kind of exists in this interesting, as this interesting metric to measure if your application, your technology is meeting all these needs that a child would need to grow and experience your technology through the frame of well-being. And I realized that our project really was meeting creativity heavily. It was having children create their own stories, but um, it wasn't really meeting the other standards. So I immediately, once I got that framework, I started thinking about how we can change this, how we can improve this, how we can work towards a more holistically fulfilling application. And so to that end, already from there, this fellowship has been an amazing experience. However, the thing that really changed my mind about how we're approaching the Bronx Story Machine and all the things we make at the museum was the youth design group, and that team of teenagers was so enlightening to speak to because their insight was, I want to say, like kind of really earth shifting for me, in that I assumed, and I believe a lot of people assume, that AI and its application is really here to help us kind of eliminate a lot of what would some would describe as the chaff of like work and workflows. However, after speaking to these teenagers, I realized that they really wanted this opportunity to learn and improve themselves, and that mirrored what the RITEC framework said, and that things like autonomy, things like their identities, things like competence and mastery are so important to feeling as if you're learning and growing. And these teenagers honestly reflected that so much. And everything I spoke to them about and all the applications I showed them and introduced them to, what kept coming up was like, well, I like this, but I would love to learn how to make music myself. Or if I showed them like an art making or an image making software, they would say they like it, but I'd much rather like learn how to do this. And so to that end, generative AI has this really interesting space in like people's minds and opinion wise. But it looks like assistive AI still is really intriguing to a lot of people, and by helping them change and improve their workflows. So for the Bronx Story Machine, it was really interesting to know that like we were gonna heavily rely on generative AI for a lot of it, and creating like images and maybe helping people create stories. But it seems like, at least to me, my design sensibility is leaning more towards kind of like assistive and AI that helps people learn and create things for themselves, and not something that they can rely on to create things for them. So a lot of things. This just to end this up really quickly, I feel like I'm going on and on. This opportunity has been extremely enlightening, and I really cannot emphasize how amazing meeting all the other designers were. And if there's anything that I can say to anybody about this project, it's that you'd be so surprised at how what you can do when you're like introduced to these things. But to that end, I want to say thank you again, and I want to pass it on to Katie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Baker. I'm a video game developer and designer for Social Cipher. Oh, was I unmuted? I think I was unmuted. Dang technology. Can I go ahead and have everyone in chat put their favorite video game? This could be an arcade game. This could be a Facebook game. It could be a game on your Switch, whatever. Put your favorite game in chat. Let's see. Ooh, Jet Set Radio, Dicey Dungeons. I love it. Yeah, so I work for Social Cipher. We create video games and curriculum to support neurodivergent youth, specifically middle and high school kids. We're currently working on a new module that focuses on the idea of like being authentic to yourself. How do you judge and make decisions to where you can stay, your true self? You can mute and cast out all the like peer pressure and ways that the world pulls you in different directions. I personally still deal with this as an adult, so I feel this is a pretty useful thing to make for kids. But yeah, the fellowship really helped us shape and model the design that we were going with by two things. First, hearing from all the other fellows on how they approach different problems in ed tech. How do we design digital media without it being addicting, but still engaging? Or how do we adjust our internal processes to adopt co-design, where we're working with kids side by side and scheduling and planning for all that chaos. And so, yeah, that led me to some really interesting insights when we were working with the youth design team, specifically how we were interviewing kids and they were writing down sort of self-reporting how they engaged with our game, what they thought about it, and that kind of thing. But what was really revealing was what they didn't say. So now at Social Cipher, we started recording all of our play tests, and it reveals a lot of things that people might not even be aware of or catch themselves, but you as a designer or creator can zero in on and be like, oh, well, actually, that's kind of the takeaway that I want this person to have while playing the game, even if they didn't know it. So I think that's really useful with kids. And that's been like exciting to incorporate and work with. The other big insight was the RITEC toolbox. Lots of other fellows have already mentioned it. But for me, I actually reached out to some people on our team and had them kind of rank our game and see what they thought our game was doing well versus how I saw the game. So it was really interesting to kind of compare and take notes on that, and see like, oh, well, I think our game is really creative. And some people thought that, oh, but I think our game really focuses on like competencies and things like that. So it's a really useful toolbox, not only for yourself, but kind of like to take to your team and share and be like, well, hey, what do you think about this? Does this like align with what we're developing and creating? Because like communication is the like one of the biggest, most difficult things about designing anything, right? So what's in the future for us with in regards to the fellowship and like the new module we're working on? Well, like I said, we've already started recording our playtest. I'm keeping the ride tech. There's like a one-page sheet of it if you don't want the whole entire document that I keep kind of near me as we're going through pre-production design. And lastly, I really, really, really hope that I can stay in touch with current fellows, maybe get in touch with past fellows, and find some really interesting and cool ways to collaborate. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Um, but yeah, so this has been an excellent experience. I'm really, really happy to have had the opportunity to do this. My other fellows are great. I love like the diversity of what everyone's creating. So it's super cool. But with that, I think I'm kicking it over to Allison and we're going into a stretch break.
Thanks so much, Katie, and all of the fellows. Amazing job. So much inspiration. You get a breather and catch up on the chat. Also, want to give all of our former fellows who are here with us today a special shout out. And let's use the next 2 minutes to please share any album, book, game. We've got a lot of recommendations already on games in the chat. Show that you're watching, a movie that you've seen that's been giving you joy. So, also, if you need to take a stretch break, we're trying to model well-being here too. So we're going to take the next 3 minutes, take a breather, come up for air, let everything that you've just heard absorb, and share some inspiration that brings you joy that others can find joy in as well. And I'll bring us all back together at 12:30. Love it. There's books, there's movies, got great games, some songs. Thanks, Andrew. Recess therapy. Nice one, Derek. Project Hail Mary is getting a lot of attention. I took my 11-year-old to see it. Highly recommend it also. Some children's books. Nice. Yes, no spoilers. Audiobook recommendations. This is great. I love the title, Melinda, of This is a Gardening Show on Netflix. I haven't heard of that one. Awesome, Daniel. More music. Okay, we're all going to have to save this chat because there's some great stuff in here. Nice, Diana. Thank you. Madeline, friend, is Olivia Dean a musician? Ooh, Stacy, Remarkably Bright Creatures. I've heard that's great. And it's a book and a movie. Amy Poehler's podcast. Good call, Leslie. Okay, Madeline has confirmed that Olivia Dean is a musician. Everybody probably knows that except for me. Brian, great one to bring us all back together, going back to watch all the old Muppet shows. So amazing. All right. I am going to now turn it back over to our fellows. And Maria, you are up.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Allison. All right. So I'm Maria Nikolaev. I'm a senior user researcher at Stride K-12. This is an online learning provider for many public and private schools around the nation and globally. So today I'm sharing a project on how we can reimagine virtual school to support well-being and not just academics. I'm sure you all remember how COVID-19 pandemic abruptly and unexpectedly pushed schools in online mode. And years later, think about it. Do you remember it positively, that learning? Many students, families, and teachers actually still remember that experience negatively. But online schooling doesn't have to be a negative experience. And when we design it with intention, we can make virtual school more than a place to complete assignments. It can promote well-being. It can foster a sense of belonging, help create different types of connections with peers, with teachers, actually form and maintain relationships and friendships. So this fellowship gave me the opportunity to do exactly that, to explore how to design virtual school experience with well-being at its center. And I focused on K-12 Launchpad. It's a learning platform that mainly supports academic tasks, so students can manage their schedules, track progress, join online classes. And during the audit phase of the fellowship, when we had to look how, like, what we can incorporate from the right domain into our product. I had to identify three right domains that could live there. That was identity, creativity, and relationships. And at first I thought, okay, so I'll have each domain and have a feature to represent that domain. And that kind of made me feel stuck. I was thinking, I won't have enough time to do all the features. But then I was digging deeper into the right deck again, as previous fellows said, I really recommend it. And I realized it's a multi-layered and very interconnected system. So one feature can support several domains. And for me, that feature was avatars. So in online schools, students often do not like keep their cameras on, and it kind of prevents it from like building connections, recognizing each other, and just building connections with teachers, peers. And if avatars could be an alternative form of presence, it could, allow students express themselves, communicate with each other, and feel visible in digital environment. So without actually being in the video. And we needed to build avatars like to support all the experiences that I identified, identity, relationship, and creativity. And that's where I got so lucky with the youth design team. They were an incredible part of the project. They came in with all their great ideas. And they actually had one of the most powerful points before our co-design session even began. So once I introduced the project during the co-design session, I asked the panelists about their own experiences with online school. And all of them, actually, they've been middle schoolers during the pandemic. And they were these people who I mentioned in the beginning. They said, without any prompting, yeah, I had this experience and I didn't like it. Like all of them. So that moment kind of reinforced me that actually a virtual school experience leaves a lasting impact on students, and we need to intentionally design for that experience to be a positive one. So, and during the co-design session, like this group of panelists, they were fantastic. They provided so many great insights and a wealth of them, and I will just share some of them just for the sake of time. So for identity domain, they stress that they want their avatar to travel with them and to be context dependent. So they want to look different in online class versus like in a social lounge or versus a one-on-one teacher sessions. And sometimes they don't want to be using avatars. Sometimes they do want to be on cameras. For example, like one-on-one tutoring or teacher office hours. And for the relationship domains, they also came up with great suggestions, including some features that serve as subtle bits for connection. For example, one young woman, she said, "Oh, I want to know when they have their birthday so I can, say happy birthday to them." So that would be like a gentle opening for to build a relationship, to start to start conversation, to create a relationship. And someone said, "Oh, I want them to show if they want to tutor or to be tutored or actually available for help." So again, there are some openings for relationships.
And something I didn't plan to explore during the co-design, but came up again and again, was the safety and security experience. The students wanted to feel secure and safe. They suggested safety guardrails. They didn't want their avatars to have like some inappropriate items to be displayed or designed, so they couldn't design them. They didn't want their location to be visible. They didn't want personal information. They wanted to be, in control of their information, personal information. So, and they also, as I said, they came up with so many ideas that I can't mention all of them, but I'm surely going to like package them and put on the roadmap for the Launchpad. I'm very excited about that. And I'm also excited that co-design becoming a practice in Stride K-12, not just a method. And I have some amazing stakeholders who are supporting this practice, and we're about to do co-designs with younger students to explore their needs, and also for different products such as games. So that's a lot of fun. I'm very excited. And finally, I want to say, like, after learning for the 5 months looking at digital space like design with well-being lens, it's probably going to be my permanent eyewear, no going back for me. And that's going to shape how I'm looking at product design in the future. So I want to wrap up with some like heartfelt thanks. I've been a very happy fellow for the last 5 months. Thank you so much to the incredible Cooney staff and fellowship leaders, Alice and Sarah, Matt, Leslie, and everyone else. You didn't just teach us well-being, you modeled it, like you saw it today. And I'm also grateful for my fellow cohort members. They represented such a wide range of fields and perspective. Again, you're seeing it now. But we're all united by the same goal, is designing for children's well-being. And their projects are so inspiring. Again, you're seeing it now. And I feel like we actually made also a sense, like built a sense of community. So, which is great. I'm very lucky to belong in this community. And a huge thank you to the youth design team as well. And as I said, their ideas and feedback were invaluable, and I couldn't have predicted how much they would contribute. So I'm very grateful. And finally, one of the highlights of the fellowship for me were all the speakers. And I'm so thankful for their expertise and perspectives and resources. I know I can't apply everything right away, but with these resources, they will shape my work going forward. And I know, like, when I work on different products, I will go back, rewatch those presentations, and like know, like, kind of and it will shape the product in that way. So again, thank you so much. I had an amazing time, and I'm so excited about what's next. And actually, next is Sarah's presentation.
Thanks so much, Maria. I second all of her kudos and gratitudes, and I'm sure that all of the other fellows do as well. My name is Sarah Kelly Luker, and I'm the executive producer and child development specialist at Nurture. Nurture is a story-based learning app designed to teach kids future-proof life skills like growth mindset, habit building, and digital well-being. So each piece of content is called an adventure, and each adventure involves players moving between linear and interactive moments kind of seamlessly and immersively to practice new skills and help their favorite characters solve problems. So the central question of my project was, how can we design better adventures for kids' well-being? In my analysis of Nurture's current adventures, I found that we are addressing well-being in a few ways already. So, for example, all of our interactives begin with a character calling the player to ask for help, which positions kids as competent experts who are capable of helping. Nurture players are encouraged to exercise their creativity through self-expression and problem-solving activities, all of which accept multiple processes and answers. But we definitely have some holes. And as the team moves towards AI-generated content, even some of our strengths could be at risk if we aren't thoughtful about design moving forward. So the youth design team, as all of the other fellows were saying, was super helpful in identifying what we're doing well and what we can do better. The first insight that came out of that session was that autonomy requires clarity. Basically, in order for a player to have the power to make meaningful decisions, they have to understand the rules of the space and the tools. That insight added some urgency to our current work reevaluating our tutorials so that kids know what choices are available to them. Secondly, the youth design team identified that kids want to make their mark. This is something that we already allow to a certain extent through customization games. So, for example, at the beginning of one adventure, kids can decorate an airship, and then they get to watch the characters fly their unique airship for the rest of the adventure. But more than that, the youth design team identified that kids want their customizations to matter in that they impact gameplay. And we've experimented with this in the past in our Crayola adventure. Kids build a submarine out of items they find on a beach, and their design actually impacts how the submarine moves through the water. If they make different choices the next time, the submarine will move differently. But we only have a few games designed with this depth of autonomy. As you can imagine, they are trickier games to build. But the youth design team made it clear that this feature is just worth the extra work. I presented my findings to the nurture team a few weeks ago, and I'm excited to say that a few of these insights from the fellowship have already been set into motion. Nurture's learning and research team is drafting new co-design protocols so that this practice can become a part of our company culture. They're also investigating how they can more closely align their key business metrics to kids' well-being. And they're restarting conversations around an idea that we've had floating around for a while called the emotions toolkit. This idea involves slowly introducing the player to emotion regulation strategies and then adding those introduced strategies to a browsable library that the player can pull from when they notice that a character is dysregulated, and they can work through that emotion with the character. I love this idea because it models both the strategies as well as situations where those strategies might be useful, and it gives kids an opportunity to try out different strategies and figure out what works best for them. And most importantly, the team has committed to a yearly well-being review. I am actually rolling off of this team today. This is one of my last tasks as a nurturer, so I'm especially glad to know that the insights from this fellowship will continue to benefit nurturing kids moving forward. I have just infinite personal takeaways from this fellowship, but two stand out. First, the importance of kids' participation. If we recognize children as people, we have to recognize their right to be involved in the design of their learning environments. And that's something that really stuck out to me, both in speaking with other fellows and also with the youth design team. And secondly, the importance of making a commitment to the care and struggle inherent in thoughtful design. Designing for kids' well-being is not a check-offable task, however much some organizations and timelines would love it to be. This work requires long-term commitment to reevaluation, conversation, flexibility, and care. And with that, I will pass it off to Tatiera.
Thanks, Sarah. Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Tatiera Spurlock McPherson. I'm the Director of Email Marketing and Web Strategy at Sesame Workshop. That is why the letter of the day is W for well-being. My project is the reimagining of sesamestreet.org and the corresponding app. And so over the years in Sesame Workshop is known, our mission is for helping children everywhere grow smarter, stronger, and kinder. And with that work, it is our responsibility to evolve with children's needs and their experiences. And we all know that children are entering digital spaces and having digital experiences earlier and earlier, and they're shaping how they learn, how they socialize, and ultimately how they are navigating the world. Sesame Workshop has released digital well-being resources for parents and caregivers. We have games and content for children that model digital well-being. And so I entered the fellowship asking myself the question, because our age group is 2 to 5, we are likely a child's first dive into digital spaces, if not the first, one of the first. So how can we help shape their lifelong healthy digital behaviors? And so, like most of us here, the youth design team was probably one of the most insightful and most helpful parts of this journey within the fellowship. I approached talking with the youth development design team by asking them what did they remember about their early dive with in digital spaces on digital platforms, and how did they navigate them. And a lot of them may not have remembered the platform exactly, but they remember some key things around being on large game hub sites, endlessly playing the games and things like that. And then I also asked them about their concerns about digital spaces as older siblings, cousins, and things like that. And I was surprised at how heavy their concerns were about children entering digital spaces today, even though they were just in elementary school and middle school a few years ago. technology has changed so much that they are concerned about what their siblings and cousins are experiencing on the internet, what they're exposed to. They know in real time what their peers have experienced from being on digital spaces, and they don't want that for the younger children in their lives. And one of them even went on to say, like, I don't want my younger sister on digital platforms at all. I'm concerned about her learning capabilities, her speech development. And so that was so interesting to me because we're talking about teenagers, and I just knew that they would, have more optimistic take on the evolution of technology, but they share a lot of the concerns that we as adults have. And so one of my biggest takeaways really were around how SesameStreet.org and the app evolve with the concerns not only of parents and caregivers, but of children that are only a few years removed from our target audience. And how do we set up our target audience for success as they go on to be in digital spaces on their own? And so I think the biggest takeaway was building found the foundational habits to extend beyond the screen. So not just in the resources themselves and in the games, but how they navigate the platform. Building in when we talk about no doom scrolling and these healthy habits, building in intentional breaks in screen time, talking about healthy ways to wind down off of devices, and just continuing to be the model for safe and thoughtful digital interactions that Sesame Street has been, and just evolving with the times and all the new pieces of it. So that was the biggest part of the work itself. Some of the more personal takeaways, again, as everyone mentioned, the older children during the youth design team, we cannot talk about them enough. They were so thoughtful and so helpful and so smart when they in talking with them. They were inspiring themselves. And just a reminder to Sarah's point that children are human, they are brilliant, and we should absolutely be bringing them into conversations about things that directly impact them and beyond. And then the fellowship itself gave me a new way of thinking about my work, how we amplify the work, and how we share the work and resources with the parents and caregivers of children. So as the children's environments are evolving, we're helping the parents navigate that as well, because it's not just the children who are affected, but the adults who are supporting them as well. This has been an amazing experience. And with that, I am going to pass it over to Taya.
Hi, thanks so much, Tatiera, and hi, everybody. My name's Taushistu, and I work at a research group at MIT called Lifelong Kindergarten. And our work revolves around designing creative learning tools and experiences for children all around the world. One of those tools that my group developed and launched recently is called Octo Studio. And this is a free creative coding app designed especially for mobile phones and tablets. And in Octo Studio, you use media like photos and drawings and sounds, plus interactive code blocks to create really whatever you want. You can make a story, a game, an animation about anything that interests you. And we built Octo Studio because smartphones are so ubiquitous, right? This is a piece of technology that's part of our day-to-day lives. And for many families, it's the device that connects them to our digital worlds. And as part of my work at Lifelong Kindergarten, I design a lot of workshops with families. And I've been exploring this question of how Okta Studio can support families in developing a shared identity as computational creators. So not just the kids, but their caretakers as well. And so to that end, throughout the fellowship, I've been designing a resource for Okta Studio called Family Game Night. And so far, I've made 4 games that are meant to be really approachable, quick, and low stakes, really fun to play, and importantly, remixable. So think games like Scattergories, which is the one pictured here in the slides, or Pictionary. And the idea is that playing a game on Octo Studio is less intimidating, especially for the adults, than creating something from scratch. But then each of these games are remixable. So they have hooks where families might think, what if we add our own categories? What if we change the timing of a round? What if we make our own prompt cards? And then they can make the games their own because they're already using Octo Studio. It's totally free and they can edit the project files as much as they want. So it's kind of like an on-ramp into creating with Octa Studio. And one of the things that we did early in the fellowship was the well-being audit based on the right tech framework that others have mentioned. That audit helped me see that my project already had a lot of strong design decisions around relationships, competence, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I decided to focus my fellowship time on shoring up some of the emotional well-being design decisions that I could make. And that showed up mainly in how I wrote the instructions for the games, because some of the games are competitive. We want people to have fun, but big feelings can come up when you're competing too. And I did a play test of one of my games with the youth partners, which echoing what everybody said, they're just so amazing and smart, and I learned a lot from them. And we also just had a lot of fun playing together. I got some positive feedback on the direction of this project, namely that short games where the rounds are just like a minute or two is the way to go. And I also got some really good, honest feedback about what parts of the instructions weren't so clear, or maybe how it felt to go into a game, not really sure how to play it. When we were designing our feedback sessions, we were introduced to this resource called the Youth Voice Playbook, and I found that really helpful too. It just had a lot of really good activities and facilitation strategies, especially for setting up like a play test digitally using a mural board and Zoom. Um, so now looking ahead a little bit, I'm excited to do some local in-person family co-design sessions around the family game night topic, and I'm really grateful for tips that we got from Jason Yip from the kids team, who was one of our speakers. I'm also really curious about putting together a kit of physical materials that go along with the games and seeing how I could distribute those to families. And just to close, I want to say a heartfelt thank you to the team at the Cooney Center for designing and holding this fellowship with such intentionality and care and truly modeling well-being for us. And also thank you to my fellow fellows. My favorite part of this experience has been getting to know all of you, and I'm excited for more collaborations in the future. I'm gonna say thanks and pass it on to Maida and Allison.
Wonderful to hear from everybody. Thank you so much. We have a couple of minutes for Q&A, so I'm gonna see if there's any questions in the chat. In the meantime, Leslie, can you put the QR code up just back up for a second? So this is the QR code back to this deck. So if you want to get folks websites or email addresses that they had on each of their slides, you can go ahead and scan that, and then we'll also send the recording out to everybody as well, so you can get it that way. So maybe I'll just ask a question to the group. Some of you have mentioned how you've shared out what you've learned with your companies or others, but can any of you share, like, where do you want to take this experience back out into your world? We've got folks from ed tech, museums, games, family apps. Where else do you expect to take this experience? Anybody can come off mute and share.
Well, I will be taking it to my research practice. Um, so, like, I realized that there are different ways to design metrics, design research questions, and when you ground them in this like RITEC framework, you get different information from the participants, from co-design members. Then if you like before, I would think about like, okay, avatars, what should I ask? I should ask preferences, I should ask like on usability. Now I'm structuring, like will be structuring my questions, grounded in like understanding how to promote connection, how to promote right identity, how to promote safety, diversity, inclusion. So this question will always be a part of my work, and sometimes in addition, sometimes sometimes the center, but they will be there. So that's I'm taking it into my practice.
That's wonderful to hear. And I remember one of our speakers, Emily Schlemmer from Pinterest, talked about how if you want to have well-being as an outcome, you have to measure well-being in your work, right? So it has to be a priority from the beginning. Okay, one other question. Speaking of speakers, can anybody, and I know Teo, you mentioned Jason, any other speakers or resources that you would want other people who are listening today to check out?
Maybe you mentioned Emily. I think Emily Schlemmer was a really interesting um, speaker for me personally. Not only was she talking about, we need to measure against well-being, but more, here are ways that I've done it in the past. Here are the exact questions we asked ourselves to arrive on metrics that would actually give us accurate information. And just kind of hearing her thought process, I think was helpful for me to know what questions to ask myself in the future to get to that place.
Wonderful. All right. And it looks like we have one other question in the chat. So somebody, Brian, is hoping to teach a course on children's media analysis. So anybody can jump in. From your perspectives, what is a big takeaway or piece of advice you would have for analyzing and developing children's media? Feel free to jump in. Maria, go ahead. Tatiara, go ahead. You had come off mute for a second. Go ahead.
I was going to say, in some of my research, specifically with parents, something that we've come across is there's, for the public, there's no differentiation between like education children's media and like pure entertainment children's media. And I think keeping that in mind as you're developing and analyzing and like what the goals are, keeping that in mind so that you can be clear about what some of the like value propositions for the specific media is for a child.
That's fantastic. And one other question in the chat, which if somebody has any resources for this one, go ahead and put them in the links. What do you think teachers and parents need to know to support digital literacy? Tatiara, you might want to share the Sesame digital well-being resources, actually, which are wonderful and came out last year. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm going to just wrap up with a couple of final announcements. So our thank you again to our wonderful fellows who presented. They are each drafting a case study, and we have case studies from our previous 2 years of fellows as well, that just 2 to 3 pages each that kind of document some of these learnings and also how they're taking them forward into their work. So you would have examples of how RITEC and other frameworks have been used in a variety of digital media. We also have a webinar coming up next month on our Sandbox initiative at the Joan Ganz Cooney Center, which is another place where we work closely with product companies. In this case, a lot of literacy tech companies or home game companies. And we're talking more about co-design and launching our co-design toolkit, which we would love for you all to join. We also have a link to our newsletter sign up coming in the chat. And so hopefully you all stay in touch with us and follow along. We're very grateful for everybody's participation and joining us today. Thank you, everyone.